Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to the final of Pro Tour Dragons Maze 2013. Rich Hagan, Brian David Marshall, and Louis Scott Vargas with you here. As you see, Craig Wesco, he has opened up with a turn one, Judges Familiar, against an Azorius Killgate for that man, Dusty Ochoa, both of the United States. It's a turn two Voice of Resurgence for Craig Wesco, a critical card, Luis, in this matchup.
Yeah, it's actually Wesco's best card in this matchup because it fights against counterspells, it fights against the Edict effects, and it fights against Wrath.
Second land for Ochoa, and Wesco, I can tell you, began with a mulligan to 5 here in this game one, which means he's already down to just 3 cards.
Does not have very much left in his hand right now. He's got a Civic Saber, a Call of the Conclave, and a Plains. While you can see that Dustin Ochoa, we've grown accustomed to seeing him have a handful of gas.
Yeah, well, I think despite the mulligan to 5, Wesco's pretty favored right now. This is a good hand, and there's a pretty good chance that Ochoa misses a land drop next turn.
Yeah, well, a handful of gas, but no land.
Yeah.
So, Call of the Conclave, that'll set up a 3-3. Remember that Civic Saber gives +1/+0 for each of the creature's colors, so that turns out to work very handily with both Voice of Resurgence and Judges Familiar. So, is it a land?
Well, it is a land.
He also doesn't have any black mana, right?
Yeah. So, he's taking 8 this turn, which is a pretty big deal.
Civic Saber is about to be equipped to the Voice of Resurgence. So 8 damage, that is half of Ochoa's life total right now.
He's drawn untapped land, and then if he draws an untapped land and can go verdict into verdict, he's in pretty good shape. If he doesn't, well, we'll see what happens.
Here we go. Big moment, Dusty Ochoa here in game one. That is not a land. Now it is.
It is not a blank though.
It's not a blank, it's an Azorius Charm, which means we might expect to see the Voice of Resurgence going onto the top of Wesco's library.
Well,
potentially.
Wesco's not terribly upset about it.
Yeah, at this point, it's going to be still pretty tough because even though he does get to Azorius Charm one of the attackers, now the elemental token might actually be lethal with the Civic Saber.
So Wesco pauses for a moment. He has been at this business before. 3 successive California Pro Tours, he has made the top 8. Here is the Azorius Charm for that Voice of Resurgence.
He gets an elemental because Ochoa played a spell on Wesco's turn.
Ultimately, that shouldn't matter because Ochoa's dead unless he hits a land for a Supreme Verdict, but clearly you'll take your free elemental.
So 8 goes down to 4. Wesco will re-equip, this time to the Judges Familiar. So that'll be 3 power flying. Land?
It is a land. It's actually still good enough, even though it now comes to play on top.
So he's down to 2. There's Supreme Verdict. Sacrifice. Counter.
Just for style points. I like
that.
that.
I do too.
And now here's Voice of Resurgence number 2. It equips again. So Ochoa in heaps of trouble.
He needs a black land here to buy himself some time. Ooh, an Azorius Charm kind of does it too.
Kind of.
This will be the same situation as last time.
Yeah, this is the fingers down the chalkboard right now, desperately clinging on after a blistering start from Craig Wesco. We said that the green-white deck is nowhere near as fast as Josh Utter-Layton's semi-final deck. But here, off a mulligan to 5, wow, Craig Wesco has blistered his way through game 1. But can he close it out?
So Ochoa's thinking about whether he wants to cycle Charm for a black mana maybe, but the problem with that is like he doesn't actually have very many lands that tap for black mana that don't cost life. He's got 2 swamps in the entire deck. Oh, wow.
Oh, and that is...
Yeah, Advent of the Worm was...
bad news for Dusty Ochoa.
So I'd like to put that on top. Again, it's a spell in the opposing turn, so here is another creature coming into play. Wesco has no need to do anything because he has that Trampler waiting in the wings.
Not equipping Saber now to play around Syncopate. Not that it matters too much.
Ochoa will run out Jace, Architect of Thought.
And Wump.
And Wesco will show him the 5-5, and we are done. Craig Wesco takes a
Pretty impressive
very quick
win on a multi-5.
Yeah, though actually the Elemental I think would have just killed him through the Jace. Because of the Civic Saber.
So Craig Wesco leads by 1-0.
And this is where Wesco's really happy he's not playing against Mihara.
You see the player sideboarding here. And you were saying that, you know, Mihara would have been a less of a good matchup here.
Well, mostly because the 4 Woodlock crawlers in the sideboard are pretty tough.
The 2-drop protection from green.
Yeah, he's a lot of protection from green, guys.
So what do you think Wesco's doing here as far as the sideboard?
Not a ton, actually. Like, his sideboard, I mean, his main deck is basically about as anti-control as he would want it, with familiars and voices and advents and whatnot, and smiters.
And Rootborn defenses.
Yeah, all those cards. In the sideboard, it looks like maybe V2 Gazi Guildmage if he wants a recurring threat.
That is a card I know he's been bringing in against the Esper control decks. He felt he can get it in under their ability to cast something, and then he gets to grow. But let's take a look at Dusty Ochoa for a second.
All right, so he definitely wants to bring in like Detention Sphere and Dramatic Rescue. I actually think Sin Collector is good in this matchup.
It's like a Faceless Butcher.
Yeah, I mean,
do you want to explain that for people who weren't around 4,000 years ago?
Faceless Butcher was a creature, you know, very much like a Fiend Hunter. Comes into play, you are able to exile a creature. In this case, Sin Collector gets to remove a creature from Craig Wesco's hand in the form of Call of the Conclave or Advent of the Worm.
Yeah, because obviously it can't get creatures. It's just, it turns out most of Craig Wesco's creatures are instants or sorceries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also very critical is it kills Rootborn defenses so that your Wraths resolve.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, we were talking a little bit about the Rootborn defenses that are in Craig Wesco's main deck and how, you know, they're objectively good against Supreme Verdict, but the problem with them seems to be that you have to put enough stuff out on the board and have 3 mana up for the Rootborn defenses.
Yeah, they're much better on the draw or on the play because of that. Also, Advent of the Worm and Celestia Charm help you play Gaia end of turn, and then you untap and have Rootborn defenses up.
Yeah.
Well, that was Dusty Ochoa's sideboard. We're going to take a look at Craig Wesco's board. And once again, you see those 4 Tristani Selesny's Voice there, Druid's Deliverance, Gift of Orsiva, the Glaring Spotlights, Vidugazi Guildmage, and Unflinching Courage. What do we like there, gentlemen?
I think it's just the Vidugazi Guildmage. That's something he's definitely been bringing in.
Yeah, I mean, those, I guess, like maybe Call the Conclave or Celestia Charm as maybe the weakest of his cards. I don't know if he wants to cut something
He likes
else.
Celestia Charm because it lets him trample over
An
Aetherling that's been blinked out.
Yeah, in that case, my guess is that it's called the Conclave. I think Judge's Familiar seems like this is a matchup where you might want it. So,
right.
Other than that, I mean, I don't think you want to cut Experiment One or Dried Militant. They're just too fast.
Right. Do you see any situation where you would bring in a Druid's Deliverance as just like if the games go a little longer and you're racing, or is that just too?
Nah,
you're just dead then.
Yeah, you can't play for those games.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So there you get a look at Craig Wesco, the 3-time Pro Tour Top 8 competitor. All in California, by the way.
That's right, San Diego 2010, World San Francisco 2011, and now here. And by the way, he is playing not just to be a Pro Tour champion, not just to be a seat at the World Championship, but a win in this match will see him go platinum for next year. This has to be one of the most, air quotes, expensive Magic matches of all time when you think of what's at stake for Craig Wesco.
Yeah, it's $60,000 if you just for winning the Pro Tour and the benefits of platinum.
Yep.
Then when you add in the potential earnings of a seat at the World Championship.
Anywhere from $4,000 to $40,000 again.
We see Dustin Ochoa is going down to 6 cards. Little frowny face die.
Yeah. It looks like Wesco's keeping a 1-lander, but a good one with 3 1-drops. So.
Oh.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen Wesco already today anytime he sits there with 2 land, he's mostly off to the races.
Well, let's take a look at what he's got.
Keep.
Yep, it is a Temple Garden indeed as his only land.
So Ochoa kicks off.
Take 2.
Going to take 2, of course, because Dryad Militant, you want to get the beats down as quickly as possible. And really not a major issue taking the damage early for Wesco. And that's interesting that Ochoa is prepared to take some damage to have 2 full mana open.
Yeah, and this could get dicey for Wesco if his guy gets charmed and he doesn't draw a land. Then he could be on 1 for quite a few turns. But never mind. And that's the kind of thing you need to do in the finals of the Pro Tour.
Yeah, and then you get to look at what kind of hand you would keep on 1 land.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a perfect 1-lander in that you have 3 1-drops, and if you draw a second land, your hand is insane.
Right. So he can play Judge's Familiar here.
Yeah, I guess he's just playing a voice. It's just too good to have it in play.
And Devour,
Toughness. Yeah.
just checking that its toughness is the gain, so Craig Wesco gains 1, goes up to
Just to
19.
give you an idea of what Dustin Ochoa had to work with.
Well, he drew a land this turn, it looks like, which is pretty good for him.
Comes into play tapped, as many lands seem to be doing this weekend.
Though I'm surprised he didn't cycle Azorius Charm on his turn to try to hit his 4th land drop, since putting Voice on top is what he had to do last game, and it unfortunately did not work out as well as he would have liked.
You want to take this one, Luis?
Yeah, it looks like we got word that Craig Wesco did not sideboard, so this is probably the second match in the top 8 where he didn't board. I can't imagine he boarded against Andre Prost either.
16. Mm-hmm.
Seek Call of the Conclave for Craig Wesco, so token at the ready.
So it sounds like Dustin Ochoa lowered his curve wherever possible.
Well, he has the 4th land now, but unfortunately no verdict. He's got to got to play a Jace here, maybe try to set up a far away next turn.
It also takes
More
2
damage.
to do that.
So there's Jace, and he's going to kind of blunt at least some of the attack coming back the other way. But a decent start for Craig
At
Wesco.
what point do you attack the player and ignore the Jace? Is this the point?
Dusty's a little too high of life total, I think. He can put Jace down to 1. It might be better to do that just so he can't minus Jace, especially though he has not missed a land drop, so Craig does not know that he doesn't have any more lands in hand. But he very kind of clearly doesn't have a verdict, because verdict would have been pretty good there, especially since he was tapped out of potential rootborn defenses. I don't know how Wesco plays this because I haven't seen him play the deck enough. My guess is that Dusty's at high enough life that hitting the Jace is probably decent here.
Attack Jace.
Everything hits Jace. And Dusty reaches out and flicks down Loyalty to 1.
And then now you've got Advent of the Worm to play around a potential Wrath.
Yep.
And it is not a land.
You see a sideboarded Dramatic Rescue.
Yeah, Voice of Resurgence is just not a fair card.
And now he does cycle the Azorius Charm.
Yeah, into
Exile.
the Wrath.
What?
Yeah, it's exiled because of Dryad Militant.
Yeah, take
Yeah.
that.
If you'd been playtesting with Channel Fireball, you would have known that.
Exactly.
I don't think it matters, does it?
I
Kill the
don't,
Dryad.
I don't think it matters. But
Well, the Devour Flesh, I don't believe is exiled.
No,
'cause
the
he killed
call
Dryad.
of the Conclave came down. Oh no, the Call of the Conclave should probably also be. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Is this exile, do you remember? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
no, actually, the Call of Conflict got cast before the Dryad Militant. Because the
Oh,
first one got Devour
Oh, the
Flesh.
first one got the right.
meanwhile, at the bits of the table that matter, we have a Dryad Militant, a 3/3 Centaur, a Voice of Resurgence.
Rescue
The
Centaur.
Centaur's going to go via
That's exiled.
Dramatic Rescue.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's exiled. Just mentioning.
Are you going to Advent here, or are you holding back on that?
My guess is he just Advents. Like, he doesn't have enough pressure without the Centaur. If he had the Centaur still in play, he might not have, but let's exile that Advent. There we go. Because now you get to kill Jace and smash for like 4 damage. Oh, and a
Oh,
second advent makes that
Jordan
insane.
Denver.
Oh boy.
Craig Wesco was allegedly the underdog, but he is 1-0 up, and he is drawing nicely here in game
These
2.
two at Jace and this guy at you. Take 4.
So Jace bites the dust. More damage comes towards Ochoa.
Go.
Land for Ochoa.
I mean, it's certainly not over.
No, not at all. He's got Sphinx's Revelation. He can climb back into this.
He's going to take
I
8
would
this
make
next
the
turn at least,
elemental.
but from a worm plus an elemental. But he's got far and away to bounce the worm and make Craig sack something. Though Judge's Familiar is going to be pretty nice here.
Yeah. End of turn. There's Advent of the Worm.
Yeah, drawing the second advent was huge.
Craig draws land. He's got Call of the
Take 9.
Conclave. That Judge's Familiar, and now a land.
2 cards.
Yep.
Just confirms there's just 2 cards.
I think at this point Wesco doesn't even bother playing around another Wrath and just goes for it, goes for the throat.
Certainly what it looks like. In comes the team. And now,
19-3.
Dusty Ochoa, do you have an answer, or are you about to go into a 2-0 hole?
Verdict or nothing.
That's a dispel. That is not a verdict.
Nope.
Wesco
Far
is
and away
going.
can basically deal with one card here.
Yeah, and even if the Judge's Familiar wasn't in play, like, he would be able to, like, bounce, kill, and then die to
And
the
just
last
die.
creature.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. He's thinking, does this Sphinx's Revelation do anything for me?
It does not.
And Craig Wesco goes up 2-0 on Dustin Ochoa. We talked to Dustin before this match, and he was supremely confident in this matchup.
He really felt not only that he dodged a huge bullet by not having to face Josh Utter-Layton, he just felt straightforwardly that he was favoured here. And Pat Cox, who I believe has played best part of half a dozen matches in this matchup this weekend and gone 0 for 6 in the from the Craig Wesco end. He seemed to think again that Dusty was overwhelming favourite, but right now...
Can you imagine how much Josh Utter-Layton would be winning by right now?
So let's take a look at the 2 players. Dusty Ochoa is really on a hiding to nothing here. He's come in and he's just having such a tremendous weekend. He's played in a couple of Pro Tours before. He's 27, 7 lifetime Pro points. I believe he won a PTQ in Glendale to get here. 6-3-1 in block constructed. Perfect record in draft, which is a mighty achievement because BDM, you can certainly attest, you're one of my go-to guys for Limited, and Limited, this format is not easy.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. A lot of people had expectations about how this draft format worked out, and a lot of people seemed to pivot by the time they were doing their second draft of the Pro Tour. I mean, what was your experience like with drafting here?
The main thing that our team wanted to do coming into the Pro Tour was cut a Gatecrash guild in Pack 1 and end up in that guild Pack 2. And if that didn't work, switch to a Ravnica guild, because that's what you get past in Pack 3. But that would be like kind of their second line or second choice. So, and that's kind of what we stuck to. I mean, that was what Ben advocated, and we often follow his lead.
All right, so let's take a look at Craig Wesco. Let's see how he did in draft and block constructed. Have a look at his record. You see he's 30 years old. He was 6-0 in draft as well, I can tell you, 7-2-1 in block. Came in as a Platinum Pro, and if he wins this match, reminder, it's one of the biggest matches of all time, he'll go Platinum again. He'll be a Pro Tour champion. He'll have a seat at the World Championship in Amsterdam later this summer. Just so much on the line.
So let me ask you a question. Craig Wesco wins this match, goes to the World Championships. You talked about the idea you have a number of Channel Fireball players going to that event. You talked about the idea that maybe you guys would break up into slightly smaller groups to mix up decks like you did last time.
That is what we did last year, yeah.
Do people gun for Craig Wesco? Like, when you're building your sideboard, are you going to be like, well, we need a white weenie anti-sideboard card in all formats?
Well, I don't know if people end up specifically doing that. Depends how good you think White Weenie is. But I know at the Players' Championship last year, like Owen and Reed had 6 anti-storm cards in their sideboard. So I mean, they knew John was in the tournament.
That's awesome.
Worth remembering, of course, that Ochoa, he's playing for the same thing because he gets the World Championship slot if he wins this. He becomes a Pro Tour champion if he wins this. Auto Platinum for
Oh,
winning
that's
a
right.
Pro Tour.
That's one of the,
Is that go into effect now?
I believe that's true because, yeah. Yeah,
okay,
it
sweet.
does. So that's where we're heading.
Looks like the finals of every Pro Tour is going to be bigger than the already huge amount it was.
Yes. Because it turns out that the difference between $20,000 and $40,000 on the turn of a card or two, not enough. We decided to make it even more important.
there we get a look at the hand that Craig Wescoe's pondering.
And is that a Pro Tour winning hand?
I like this less than his last hand, because this is kind of like the one-lander where you need to draw a land, but now it has to be a Plains or a Temple Garden.
What if you swapped out one of those forests and the other forest was a Temple Garden? Would you consider keeping it?
That one I'd like more. I mean, I'm going to defer to Wesco here because, again, I haven't played this deck, but without the Plains there, this seems like one of the ways you can lose.
So Ochoa
And
has...
there you get a look at the hand we were talking about.
Ah, right.
What Wesco's showing us a thing or two. So though Dusty's hand is quite good still.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
It's got kind of all the things you want, and he does not have to play against Voice of Resurgence, which is by far the card you want to see the least.
So in response to the call of the Conclave, we see Devour Flesh taking
21.
out Experiment 1.
And we know that he's got a Dramatic Rescue, which deals perfectly with that token.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mini Ribbons of Night. I just have to refer to Ribbons of Night as often as I can. It's like
I was
my
going to
favorite
say,
card.
that's not a sentence I expected to hear when I woke up this morning. Oh, a mini Ribbons of Night. Of course it is.
I played Ribbons of Night at a Pro Tour before.
You've played all sorts of weird nonsense at a Pro Tour before, my friend.
Well, also true.
There we see Limited Superstar, Dramatic Rescue.
Or 20.
We had it in our Esper deck in Montreal. We had one of it.
22 to 21.
Of course, Ben Struck said it was the worst card in the deck, but we still had one.
Experiment 1 again from Craig Wesco. He's got a Selesnya Charm sitting there. See, we're going to see another call of the Conclave, though, right now for 3/3 backup plan after that Dramatic Rescue.
I'd be surprised if Dusty does not take the opportunity to play the unopposed Wrath here, as opposed to worrying about getting hit by Rootborn defenses or whatnot, especially since he has a far and away to kind of clean up things afterwards. Though, the far and away does deal with the current board.
He does play, he plays a tap land, though.
That's a little riskier, now that, especially now that Wesco's drawn an Advent of the Worm.
Voice of Resurgence, Advent of the Worm, just utterly huge cards this weekend. Not just for Wesco, but for bunches of people.
But that far and away is.
Yeah, it is very, very,
17?
very relevant here.
I'll take
At this
2.
point, now that Wesco's telegraphed the Advent of the Worm, I'm not sure what Dusty wants to, how he wants to handle this.
Draws a second Supreme Verdict, it looks like.
Yeah.
Just for newer players, when Luis says telegraphing the Advent of the Worm, well, that Temple Garden could have come into play tapped to save Wesco 2 life. It didn't, so he must want 4 mana.
Actually, what he meant is there's a metal plate, and then there's a little
Stop it.
lever that makes contact with it. And
Stop it.
So this is the kind of the nightmare scenario, which is kind of why I liked Wrathing last turn. Now he got Rootborn defenses, which is basically like a 3/3 Mystic Snake. So
it counters the uncounterable counterspell
Yeah.
and puts a 3-power creature into play. And now he has Voice of Resurgence.
though, now that Dusty has another Supreme Verdict, he does get to kill the 2 Centaurs. It does force the Experiment 1 to regenerate.
Let's go to 8.
Of course, the Worm token plus the Selesnya Charm could be a problem. here.
Well, except that he'll
Right
have-
now, there's lethal Pro Tour damage sitting on the table. Ochoa is at 8. Wesco is 2 up with 3 to play. Supreme Verdict again.
So
Response.
he's going to have
need
4
cast
power in
regenerate.
play at the end of this.
Yeah, and it's going to.
Resolves
It's actually going to be 6
power.
power if he decides to make a Night token as well.
Hold on.
So hold
Yeah, hold on, I'm gonna evolve
Hold
this.
on. Get that evolved.
So, actually, Wesco could have had lethal here with the evolve trigger on the stack, play a night token, evolve from the night, then evolve from the elemental, and then untap and play.
Oh,
Play another guy.
Clever.
Ooh.
That would have been the
You're
extra point.
good. Why aren't you down there?
Well, I wish I was, but not that I'm unhappy.
Wesco, Advent of the Worm.
But it's also lethal.
And
So
that's it. Craig Wesco is your 2013
Congrats on
Pro Tour
winning.
Dragons Maze
Well, that was a
champion.
beating.
Sweeps it in a beating,
3-0
yes.
sweep. He crushed that.
He beat him like a rug.
That
Yeah.
was outstanding play by Craig Wesco. He loves California Pro Tours. Top 8, and now top 1. Boys, we know nothing.
I'm not going to say our guesses were good because they weren't.
Just as well. Oh, dearie me. Luis, what is it like when you can feel yourself about to win a Pro Tour?
It's actually the best. When you have the win, but it's not over yet, is basically the best. And seeing Dusty cast that Wrath was probably exactly what Wesco wanted.
Which is crazy to say.
The white-green deck was just hoping he had the Wrath.
Oh, if only you would kill all my creatures, but no. Fantastic achievement by Craig Wesco. As we say, the World Championship now is filled, the 16 players for that. You now have another Platinum Pro joining the ranks. Craig will be there again. And he came in, he was so far off Platinum. We thought, yep, silver, maybe gold with a decent run. Well, first's a bit better than a decent run. So what we're going to do, thanks very much to Brian David Marshall, Louis Scott Vargas. We are going to send you back to the news desk and Marshall Sutcliffe.
Welcome back to the news desk. Marshall Sutcliffe with Zach Hill and Sheldon Menery. Whoa!
That was a crazy finals. One of the fastest 3-game sets I've ever seen. One of the most decisive victories I've ever seen.
Yeah, we're going to get into the details a little later, but holy smokes, that was fast.
Most savage Pro Tour final that I've certainly ever witnessed, and I've been around a long time.
I mean, that was convincing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there was no question. We were talking about some of the details earlier, and it looked like the matchup was favorable, but that was just a smash.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't quite Sliver Kids quality.
Right.
But,
Well, we said if Wesco's deck plays the way it's supposed to, and Ochoa's deck plays the way it's supposed to, Wesco's deck's going to win, and we saw that play out.
Yeah, in 3 straight games, just bang, bang, bang. It was funny because, you and I all of us, we were watching on the camera, just like you guys. We like to watch too, of course. And and it was like the things were happening so fast, and Wesco was getting so far ahead that it was faster than the words that we can use to describe it. No, wait, if he did, and it's like, well, the game just ended.
Yeah, right.
Next
That
game,
happened.
I guess. So congratulations to Craig Wesco. We're going to have, we got some really cool stuff coming up for you guys in just a couple of minutes, so stick with us. There's going to be an award ceremony.
awesome.
For Rookie of the Year, for Player of the Year, and for the champion from this event. So we're going to get to see that live on the air. We're also going to get an interview with Craig. So we're going to get a chance to talk to him too, and all of that before we sign off here. So this is going to be a fun next few minutes. What we're doing right now is we're getting Rich ready because he is going to be the guy who's going to be emceeing the whole thing. And so we're trying something a little new for you, so it should be fun. But yeah, Craig Wesco, your champion here from Pro Tour Dragons Maze, in impressive fashion in the finals.
We must have said the word savage about 12 times when we were.
We've moved from devastating to savage.
Yeah, right.
Right,
No,
and
always
reach.
got to be. I want something to be able to become an internet meme of Magic coverage. It's like we're not making Reddit, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, but it really was. And, I think a lot of the things played out how we expected. The tools were there for Craig. And he also had some nice draws. I mean, we saw him keep a double forest hand. And,
He had very fortunate with the planes, but he had 2 draws to 13 outs, I think.
Absolutely. And, he just needed a little tiny bump, and he just was able to put this thing out of line.
I mean, you could play those 2 experiment ones while he was waiting for lands.
Yeah.
It seems like good. And he knows the deck. I mean, he's played the deck all weekend. He's probably played a million times before, so he knew that he had a pretty good chance of getting there.
All right, I'm told we're ready, so we're going to bring you guys right now to Richard Hagan. He is over in the feature match area, and he's going to bring you an award ceremony that we haven't done before. So we'll see you guys in just a few minutes.